According to Goodreads, I've read 123 books, really in my adulthood. But I thought it'd be fun to go through every book that I've rated a 5-star and see if I still feel like it's a 5-star book. There are 15 books total. 15 books out of 123 is roughly 12%. So roughly 12% of the books that I read, I rate highly, which isn't a high number at all. I guess I'm like a harsh critic. I don't know. I feel like it should be higher than that, but it's not. And so anyway, hi, I'm Leia. Welcome to my channel. I'm gonna do this in chronological order, and chronological meaning I'm gonna start chronological of the time that I've read them. So I'm gonna start off with books that I haven't read in a while, and then I'm gonna end with books that I've read most recently. That's what I mean by chronological. I'm so happy that I explained that into full detail. So anyway, let's get started with the first book. I think this was like 2021, 2022, okay? Fresh out of the pandemic. Well, we're still in the pandemic at the time, but you know, I was processing. It's been processed, and I'm just living in the new normal, as we like to call it. I picked up The Subtle Art of Not Giving an F. This is actually hilarious that I rated this 5 stars. I'm not even like a self-help person, really, at all. I feel like anytime I read a self-help book, it's like usually against my will. However, I picked this up, and apparently it changed my life. And you know what it did? Because now I live every day not given an F-U-C-K. Bars. Anyway, I picked this up. I loved it, apparently. I could not tell you a single thing that happens in this book. I guarantee if I read this today, I would not rate it 5 stars. There's just absolutely no way. I feel like it's one of those things where it's like a self-help book that makes you feel good, and you start like riding that high of like, oh my God, I can change my life. Like, I'm super motivated right now. 5 stars. This didn't change my life. I very much give a lot of FUCKs about a lot of things. It's exhausting. It's exhausting. I'm exhausted. So it didn't work. Sorry, it didn't work. Sorry, Mark. Another book from this era is The Alchemist. This is a fiction, so like one small step in the right direction. I do remember really enjoying it. I feel like it is a fiction, but it's still like within the realm of like that self-help genre. It's like all about like reaching your like destiny. It gives you that same like hopeful, like motivating feeling. To be completely honest, I don't know if I would still rate this a 5 star. I feel like this is a pretty popular book. Like, I feel like this is a book that a lot of people that don't read all the time may still like pick up and recognize. It's very popular, obviously, I think is what I'm getting at, but I wouldn't be opposed to rereading this. I feel like this is like probably still like a good book, but I don't know if I would read this today and it would like necessarily change my life. Then I read The Deathly Hallows, and I rated this 5 stars. This definitely wasn't the first time I read this book. I think that was probably like the 7th time I've read this book. I feel like a lot of like millennials and maybe even older Gen Z can relate to like Harry Potter being such a big part of like your childhood. And that is definitely how I feel about Harry Potter, unfortunately. I stand by this being a 5 star. It's so good. It's such a good series. I unfortunately will be forcing my children to read this as well. It's just so fun to read them around the holidays, and I think that's what I did here. Anyway, I'm talking way too much about Harry Potter. Yeah, this is gonna be 5 stars still. Okay, now we're getting into like 2023. This is when I really started picking up reading. Book recommendations were on my TikTok For You page, and this is where I feel like I really started to kind of like fall in love with it, and I was reading. This is when it kind of became my main hobby. Because of TikTok, I picked up The Silent Patient. I actually have like a vivid memory of me finishing this book and the plot twist, I was like mind blown reading this plot twist. I was so blown away by the direction that it went. I immediately was like, this is the best book I've ever read. Which is so funny to me because I 1000% would not rate this 5 stars now. Here's the thing though, horror, thriller, scary books and like plot twists within them, they're fun. Like they're fun and they're entertaining to read, but I don't think this is something that like changed my life. It's also so humbling when you rate a book 5 stars or you read a thriller and you're like, whoa, that was like a crazy ass plot twist. And then you get online and people are like, I saw that coming from a mile away. Like this was garbage. I'm like, no, yeah, me too. Like, I wasn't even trying, really. I wasn't even trying to find the plot twist, so that's probably why it surprised me. But like, if I tried, like if I was like putting any critical thinking skills, like I definitely would have. I would have caught that too. It's not like I think the book is bad. Like this, I feel like whether you like this book or not is strictly relying on if the plot twist surprised you or not. I don't know, I just feel like you rate things highly when you don't have much to compare them to, where I'm like, I enjoyed my time with this, 5 star. Where it's like now I feel like if the book didn't change my life, like if it didn't alter my brain chemistry in some way, if it didn't elicit like strong emotions out of me, then I'm like, no, it's not a 5 star. I definitely would not consider this book to have done any of those things. I just like thought it was like had a crazy ending. So unfortunately, The Silent Patient, no. Next, I read and rated The Song of Achilles 5 stars. I do think this most likely holds up. I read parts of the Odyssey in high school, and that's really the extent of my knowledge. I haven't even watched Percy Jackson. I don't know much about Greek mythology. In my mind, this is the original story. This is exactly what happened with Achilles and Patroclus, the other guy. And I loved it. I thought it was so good. I actually remember finishing this and thinking, I want to read more Greek mythology, and then I never did. I also heard her book, Circe, is really, really good. I am interested in reading that as well, but I would say Song of Achilles holds up. I thought it was beautiful, and it did make me cry. Speaking of tragedies, then I read The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. This book also absolutely destroyed me. It was so sad. 2 women, 2 sisters, how differently their lives are during the war. One of them stays home, waits for her husband to come back, and it's like just talks about the poverty and hardships that she faced while staying within France. The other sister wants to fight and take more of an active role in the war. Most historical fictions, I feel like, are pretty devastating. This was so sad, but so good. I really, really loved this book. I would still consider this a 5 star as well. Then I read The Book Thief. I feel like you're noticing a pattern. This made me bawl my eyes out as well. I loved it. I don't think any book, movie, show, nothing has made me cry harder than The Book Thief. Also, World War II. This time it's a little girl in Germany and how her family is housing a Jewish man in their basement. It is narrated by Death itself. I got like weeping. It was so good. It's like one of those books where this was amazing and I would consider this 5 stars and it was so good, but I never want to read it again. I actually didn't even know it's a movie. I found out it was a movie after I read this. I'm not interested in watching that movie. I'm not interested. Thank you so much. I'm good. I know what happens. I imagine what happens, and I don't need to see it in front of me. I'm okay. Thank you so much. Next, The House on the Cerulean Sea. Once again, can you guess? Made me bawl my eyes out, but in a different way. This made me cry, not because it's sad. It made me cry because it's so wholesome, which was a new experience for me. I don't think I've ever cried because something was so warm and fuzzy. This is like a cozy fantasy. The found family in this is so strong. Like, if you like found family and you live under a rock and haven't heard of this book, I would highly recommend this one. I read this in my book club that I'm in with my friends. I will say it was a little polarizing. I think my friends that did not like the book mentioned that it felt like a kid's book, which I completely agree with. It's definitely rated E for everyone. This to me feels like a Pixar movie. And I love Pixar movies, especially when I'm hungover. Like, I just felt so emotionally attached to the characters. I don't know. I liked it. I liked it. Speaking of books I liked, Happy Place by Emily Henry. Yeah. I liked Happy Place. I rated it 5 stars. Okay, and I don't really want to hear anything about it. I know this is a pretty polarizing book, specifically for Emily Henry books. I think this one in particular, a lot of people love it or they hate it. I obviously loved it. It has been a couple years since I've read it. I understand why people have issues with this book. I just personally didn't feel that way, and it didn't bother me. A lot of people don't like the miscommunication within the book, which I get. I understand why it's frustrating when you have the perspective of if the couple just had one conversation, then the entire conflict within the story wouldn't even occur. Sure, but counter argument, I personally feel like the miscommunication trope feels realistic to me. Maybe I don't give people enough credit, but I do feel like a lot of people out there aren't very good at communicating. And a lot of people like to avoid hard conversations and like to avoid conflict, even if it is with their partner. And I think even more so if both parties are under a lot of stress and going through something individually, and both parties aren't close within proximity and can't really lean on each other within a relationship. So I feel like in this couple's defense, I didn't think it was completely unbelievable that they had a little miscommunication going on and it caused a rift within the relationship. I also thought this was super atmospheric, which I loved. I feel like it's such a fun summer read. It made me want to go to Maine. It made me want to have rich parents. The way that she wrote each of the side characters, it felt like a real friend group to me. And I loved that, yes, it's about a relationship between one couple, but it's also about a relationship between multiple people within a greater friend group. I feel like she really portrayed what it's like to have long-term friendships where you know that person so well, and their aspects of their personality can sometimes irritate you and you can sometimes butt heads, but at the end of the day, you both love each other and it's all out of love. And I don't know, I really, really liked the conflict among them. I really liked how a part of the conflict was growing up and how that impacts your friendships, and how as you're entering into new phases of adulthood, you do start to lose those relationships and those friendships, and how that in itself is hard. I don't know, I really, really liked this one. A lot of people have beef with the ending because it is unrealistic. The ending is giving Hallmark, and I think a lot of people have issues with that as well. It's a little unrealistic. Okay, shut up. Okay, maybe shut up. God forbid we're delusional. And I know I'm being contradictory because earlier I'm going up to bat about the miscommunication trope because I'm I like it because I think it's realistic. And now I'm turning around and I'm saying, well, the ending was unrealistic, but I liked it. So what do you want? You want realistic or you want unrealistic? I don't know. I just liked the book. And I'm riding for it, but we don't need to get into it. I rated this 5 stars. Then I read Shark Heart. People in my life are so sick of hearing me talk about Shark Heart. I actually don't even have it with me right now because I convinced my cousin to read it. Shark Heart is about a couple, a newlywed couple, and the husband is diagnosed with a rare genetic disorder that turns him into a great white shark. Literally, a man, he turns into a shark. And then his wife is what do I do? He's gonna be a shark. And you're this is so silly and it's so weird and so goofy, a man becoming a shark. And then you're watching the wife cope with the fact that she's about to lose her husband. Her husband is transforming into something that she does not recognize, and she's grieving the loss of her husband. And then you're oh, this is about so much more than this silly, goofy premise. It's about watching someone you love become so sick that they become unrecognizable, and eventually the shark's got to go into you can't just carry a shark around It's a big shark. Shark's gotta go somewhere eventually. And I thought it was so heartbreaking. It was so beautiful. Like, I loved the book. It's like really just like themes of like grief and loss and like coping with that and living your life and like opening yourself up to love again despite like how scary it is because you've experienced like loss. I personally love reading about grief. I love crying. If it's something that interests you, like, I would highly recommend that book. I think it's like my favorite book that I've read ever, or at least one of them. So yeah, definitely I would still consider that to be a 5-star. Now we're getting into like, I think this is like 2024. We're getting into 2024. Now, like, into 2024, I read The House on Mango Street. This is like just short and sweet, but I thought it was so impactful. I thought it was very well written. And I just thought it was like impressive how the author can write about like traumas and hardships and like harsh realities that these people within a Mexican neighborhood within Chicago face through the lens of a child. It's not so obviously stated what is happening to these people that are in her life. Like, you're reading in between the lines because it's through the lens of a child and how a child would interpret and understand horrible things that people have to live through. I don't know, I think it's like really, really well written. I would still consider this a 5-star. I think at this point, any book that I talk about, I would consider 5 stars. And then the last book for 2024 was 11/22/63 by Stephen King. Yeah, I love this book. This was my first Stephen King ever. This is about a man that's traveling back in time to try to stop the JFK assassination. Anytime a man discovers time travel, it's always JFK. Why does every man want to save JFK? What is it? Like, psychologically, why are there so many stories of men discovering time travel and being like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm not judging it. It's very noble. But like, of all the tragedies of the world, why JFK? Maybe it's like the easiest to stop? I don't know. Anyway, that's what the book's about. So much more happens though. I thought the ending was so good. Oh God, it made me bawl my eyes out once again. Cried very hard. Loved this book. I'm like afraid to read more Stephen King because I just am afraid that nothing will be as good as this. But anyway, really good book. Now we're in present day, 2025. We're about halfway through the year, and I've rated 3 books. 5 stars. The first one being Pride and Prejudice, and I'm so happy I can give this a spotlight that it deserves. I loved this book. This was probably like the second classic that I've read in my adulthood, and I feel like this book made me understand why people enjoy classics. Yes, it's written in like Old English, but I still felt like it was pretty easy to understand. I didn't think it was like extremely difficult to get through. I had to pay extra attention to kind of fully understand what was going on, and I feel like it forced me to like slow down and just like enjoy the book. I don't know, I just really liked it. I feel like I was more like maybe like intentional with reading this. I just thought it was gonna be like a romance. I knew it was like enemies to lovers, but it's also just like drama and tea and gossip, and it's funny. Like, I was so shocked. I don't know, people laughed back then. And I find it like so interesting, like how people lived back then. An estate is passed down to like the men in the family, and women's only way of like acquiring wealth was like through marriage. So like marriage is like a business transaction. And God forbid I find it romantic that 2 people choose to marry through love, despite the fact that it's like all about social status. It was really interesting, and I really liked it. Then I read Beartown by Fredrik Backman. I think the reason I love this so much is how Fredrik Backman writes characters. Like, there's a lot of characters in this book, and every single one has like a unique and individual personality. Like, I can like identify each and every character so vividly. It's like he just really knows how to make characters feel like real people. I would check trigger warnings before reading this book. I just thought it was so good, and this also made me cry. The last book that I rated 5 stars was Alone with You in the Ether. I read this on my Kindle, so I don't have a physical copy of the book, but I read this very recently and I absolutely loved it. It was like so different from any romance that I've ever read before. I think this is definitely like more of like a literary fiction. I would not consider it a contemporary romance. I don't know what it's actually labeled as. The characters aren't exactly super likable. They're deeply flawed. The male main character is like not charismatic. He's like not what your typical like romance male character would look like. It's about like the issues that they face individually, and they eventually find love within each other. And I feel like it's kind of like them grappling with their own personal struggles and how that impacts their relationship with someone that they love. And it kind of reminded me of like a Sally Rooney book, but the ending of it was more hopeful and like a little more like lighthearted. It's about a woman named Reagan and a man named Aldo, and they both each have a lot of shit going on, I think, internally, and they fall in love, and it's about their relationship, and it isn't healthy, but it's about like working towards becoming better and like becoming better for each other. And I just thought it was so beautifully written. If I look at a character and I'm like, I don't know how I feel about you, you're frustrating to read about, but I can also still empathize with you. And I love that so much. Like, that's when you know that they are like a complex and more like multifaceted than just this like archetype. And it's about time and bees, and I learned things, and I absolutely loved it. So anyway, those are all the books. Those are all the books that I've rated 5 stars ever. So if you've read any of these, let me know what you think. If you have any recommendations, I would love to hear them. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.